episode 532 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter, here at the Unpopular Podcast. Not really asked you to agree with me, I'm asking you to hear me out. I promise you, I am not one of those I told you so type people. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I realize that with a lot of those I told you so people, they have a really tough time acknowledging when they're wrong. I don't think that's me. But I feel like every single day, every single night, we talk about sports. Every single time we watch sports, no matter the sport. My take gets justified. And that take is we are in the golden age of sports. You know, every single time I say that, I hear a lot of pushback. I hear, well, no, what about the 90s? What about the early 2000s? All great times in sports. But when we talk, we're living through so much history in sports that it would just behoove you not to think that this is the golden age. We're living through almost every sport has an arguable GOAT still playing or still relevant in the sport. Where I want to start this episode is with arguably a top 5 fighter I've ever seen in my life in Terrence Crawford. We had incredible college football games this weekend. We had incredible NFL games this weekend. But the marquee event this weekend in sports was Terrence Crawford going up against Canelo Alvarez. You had one fighter that was going in was 41-0, Terrence Crawford. You had another fighter that was going in that was 63-1-1 or 1-2. And that was the marquee matchup. Again, we had Super Bowl rematches. We had Ravens versus Browns. We had WNBA playoffs starting. We had great college football games. But the marquee event was Terrence Crawford going up against Canelo Alvarez. Now, why did I start my episode with saying I'm right about this is the golden age of sports? Terrence Crawford is the best fighter of this generation. That has been his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. Terrence Crawford, in my opinion, will go down as a top 5 boxer I've ever seen in my life. Now, I'm not the biggest boxing, history buff, but I've watched a lot of boxing in my years, and I have not seen 5 boxers greater than Terrence Crawford. And what was funny about this fight going into it was, and this is also why I said that Terrence Crawford's greatness is his biggest weakness and his biggest strength, because when you get to as great as he has been, it's hard to find opponents that want to step inside the ring with someone as great as Terrence Crawford. I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about, I think they were talking to Shannon Sharp and Club Shay Shay. They were talking about the state of boxing and how Floyd Mayweather essentially ruined boxing. And to a certain point, or to a certain standard, I agree. That O in the loss column means so much to people, and rightfully so. I think Floyd Mayweather emphasizing that O in his career made it to the point where that's almost the only thing that matters to fighters. And I also get it because it's different how we talk about fighters that have an O in that loss column compared to fighters that have a 1 or a 2 in that loss column. But I believe Floyd Mayweather made it almost impossible to look at a fighter that has 1, 2, or 3 losses ever or the same as a fighter that has no losses but less wins. Floyd Mayweather made that O extremely important in the loss column. That was his thing. That's his legacy. That's one of the reasons why he considers himself, and a lot of people consider him, the greatest fighter of all time because of that O in the loss column. And understandably so. I think Floyd Mayweather is one of the greatest fighters ever, especially when we talk about his elusiveness in punches. So when we talk about Terrence Crawford, it's hard to find somebody. Bruh, he's 42-0 at this point. It's hard to find somebody that is willing to step in the ring because you're essentially the underdog, except for this fight when Canelo was the favorite, and we'll talk about that in a second. That's one of the biggest reasons why it was such a big fight with Errol Spence going up against Terrence Crawford, because it's just so hard to find a top-tier matchup like that. Now, yeah, I know Errol Spence went through the car accident and the eye injuries and everything, but that was a marquee fight at the time. But going into this fight, almost everything was going up against Terrence Crawford. You're going up a weight class. Like, I think he went from like 147 to 168. That's 21 pounds. 20 plus pounds is a humongous difference when we talk about the fighting world. It's humongous difference anywhere, but when we talk about the boxing world, it is extremely it's Grand Canyon size. You're going up against, I would say, the face of boxing. And I'm not saying that Canelo Alvarez is the best boxer, but the face of boxing is probably Canelo. When you think of boxing, it's very hard to think of stars. There's not many stars, let alone many stars bigger than Canelo right now. And going into the fight, he had 63 wins. But you're going up against Canelo, and I think this is one of the first times where Terrence Crawford, went up that much in weight. But this is the fight that he wanted. This is the fight that they both wanted. And Terrence Crawford essentially dog walked Canelo that entire fight. I think if you want to be nice, if you want to be generous, I'll give Canelo 2 rounds. Maybe the first 2, or maybe the first and the third. I give Canelo 2 rounds. But that was it. Yo, Crawford put on a masterclass on how to deliver punches, how to take punches, how to, he's such a technician in the ring. The biggest compliment that I can give Crawford for that fight was he made Canelo almost look like an amateur. And I think that's why. That right there is the biggest reason why. And what solidified to me that Terrence Crawford is arguably I can't name 5 fighters better than him. Because you went up to Canelo. You went up to Canelo's weight class. You didn't have a rematch clause. You didn't have a dehydration clause. You didn't do all the bells and whistles that would be in favor of Canelo and would be actually in favor of you. He didn't. He did everything that a underdog is supposed to do. And when it came time to fight, he looked like the superior fighter. And we're not talking about no slouch. We're talking about Canelo. Again, he has 63 wins and only 2 losses now and 2 draws. Crawford also became the first 3-division undisputed boxing champion of the 4-belt era. So you have the accolades, you have the milestones, you have the wins, you have that 0 that Floyd Mayweather made so popular. I think the question is, and I think what's difficult is what's next. I think Crawford is 37, 38 years old, one of those two, and you've reached the mountaintop. You beat the face of boxing. You beat the person essentially in his prime that a lot of people said that you couldn't beat. And that's one thing I love about both Crawford and Canelo. They've never really ran from a fight. They've never ran from a big fight. The issue has been, at least for Crawford, is the other opponent hasn't really wanted to fight them. But I don't know where he goes from here. And like that's why I said his greatness is sort of a blessing and a curse. I don't know where he goes from here. You've beaten everybody in front of you. You've beaten the face of boxing. I've essentially, again, the first 3-division undisputed champion. What is there left to gain? Who else is there? You could go down and fight someone like a Boots Ennis. You could go down and fight someone like a Gervonta Davis, but do you want to continue to fluctuate your weight like that? And on top of that, why would you do that? As great as Boot Ennis is, as great as Gervonta Davis is, Terrence Crawford is the draw. So they would have to be the ones to come up to his weight. And I think, and side note, shout out to Netflix. It was a flawless stream, flawless night. It definitely learned from its mistakes with the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. It was, shout out to Max Kellerman. I don't remember who the other commentator was, but it was just a seamless stream, seamless event. It was great. Netflix really did their thing. The picture was good. It was good. Everything about it was A tier. But I don't know where I don't know where Terrence Crawford goes from here, which is why I think his next move might be retirement. And he even said he's going to talk to his team. He's 37, 38 years old. He's almost 40. Not saying that obviously he's still at the prime of his powers the way that he beat Canelo, but again, who is there else left to fight? I don't know. And shout out to Canelo too. Canelo, I know that he's the one that lost, but there were times like this fight doesn't take away from his legacy. It's just, it was clear that you're fighting a different caliber of fighter, and that's no offense to Canelo. That's all praise to Terrence Crawford, the Omaha legend. This was an extremely good fight. This was a entertaining fight, and kudos to both Terrence Crawford and Canelo for putting on an absolute show. And like I said at the start of this is the golden age of sports, because there's no one that has any sweat equity in the boxing world, anyone that watches boxing regularly, anyone that cares about boxing, there's no way that you can look at Terrence Crawford, look at what happened against Canelo, look at what's happened in his career. There's no way that you can look at that and think to yourself, I can name 10 or 5 boxers better. He is a top 5 boxer of all time, in my opinion. And while I already had that assumption going into this fight, the results of this fight just put a bow on it. Congratulations, Terrence Crawford, for again becoming the first 3-division undisputed boxing champion. And shout out for if this is the last fight, I'm not saying it is, shout out to a very successful career. Speaking of successful career, and I'm going to move on to what we saw in week 2, do my week 2 breakdown. I would hope that players, teams learn from the past. Because everything that we're trying to do, I know that there's new things, but almost everything that we're trying to do, almost every avenue to both failure and success has happened before. And it would behoove any organization, any team, any company to look at what happened in the past and do the necessary things to prevent failure. Terrence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, I know it's a different sport than football, but they have had the blessing. They have had the reward of a long career. In the boxing world, that doesn't happen. In the football world, that doesn't happen. But there are things that teams can do to ensure that you have a longer career than expected. I'm obviously talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. Forget the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-27. The talk in this game, or the talk coming out of this game, is Joe Burrow being injured yet again. And I think it's been confirmed that he's going to miss at least 3 months, essentially putting the season in major jeopardy for the Cincinnati Bengals again. There's a reason why when you hear people talking about this on ESPN, on Fox, on Bleacher Report, any NBC, any media company that is talking about Joe Burrow and his injury right now continuously bring up Andrew Luck. And why is that? A whole different player, a whole different team. Why are they bringing up Andrew Luck? Because like I just said, everything that has happened in the past, every avenue to both success and failure has happened. And Andrew Luck is a prime example of what failure looks like. Not because of Andrew Luck himself, but because, it also shows, and Andrew Luck is a prime example that the NFL, football is a ultimate team sport, not just the players, but the front office, the GM, the coach. Everything has to be in tandem for you to get the best results. You can't have an incredible team with a terrible coach. We've witnessed that. It doesn't work. You can't have an incredible team with a terrible GM. It doesn't work. You can't have a great team with a meddling, terrible owner. It doesn't work. Everything has to be aligned for success. When you hear about Andrew Luck, everything was not in line for success. Andrew Luck, talent-wise, was good enough to be one of those quarterbacks. Talent-wise, he was one of those quarterbacks in the small time that he had. But what happened? Everything wasn't aligned. For some reason, they kept thinking, okay, every year Andrew Luck plays for the Indianapolis Colts. By year's end, while there is success, we get to the playoffs, we may get to the AFC Championship. While there's success, Andrew Luck consistently finds himself as one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league every single year. Without fail, a list of top 5 sacked quarterbacks yearly, Andrew Luck is in that list. And Stanford graduate Andrew Luck thought to himself, yo, I love playing football. I love this sport, but I can't continue to do this because this is going to take away from my livelihood. This is going to take away years off my life if I keep getting killed the way I'm getting killed every Sunday. Did you know that Andrew Luck, in his career, averaged almost 3 sacks a game? That means minimum, he was coming into the game, he was getting sacked at least 3 times a game. And there was, 16 games. So 3 times 16, you do the math. Andrew Luck kept getting hurt, kept getting little nicks, little cramp, but those injuries always started to pile up. And the Colts never addressed the offensive line when Andrew Luck was there. Never. They might get him a defensive player, so a player that's never going to touch the floor or touch the field when Andrew Luck is on the field. They might get you a running back. They might get you a wide receiver, but they never got him the offensive line help that he desperately needed. Andrew Luck retired early. I remember the day he retired. Shocked the world. He retired. I think it was on a Sunday. He was just like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't physically do this anymore. Before Andrew Luck, and I know it's a quarterback, but before Andrew Luck, did anyone look at Calvin Johnson? Calvin Johnson, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. One of the most physically gifted wide receivers at all time. Retired early because he physically couldn't do it anymore. Before Calvin Johnson, there was a Barry Sanders who retired incredibly early at the running back position because he just couldn't keep taking. The punishment wasn't equaling wins. So he was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm trying to paint a picture that the road to failure has been the same. Yet people don't continue to do, or they continue to do the same things. Joe Burrow has turf toe. I know it doesn't sound serious, but that is extremely serious. And he's going to be out at least 3 months. This isn't the first. There's a reason why Joe Burrow has won Comeback Player of the Year twice. This is also the reason why I continue to harp and preach that, one, the Cincinnati Bengals is an incompetent organization, and two, that championship window has been closed. That championship window closed the day they lost it against the Rams. I'm not just talking about the fact that they always have contract disputes with a top tier player. I'm not just talking about the fact of how long it takes them to pay their players. I'm not just talking about the fact of, the holdouts that they continuously have on the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about the fact of the NFL is a legit open book test. And on top of that, people are giving you the answers. How many years are people going to say, hey, you might want to address that offensive line? Hey, that offensive line ain't good. Hey, that offensive line is not good. Hey, the offensive line now. Hey, Joe Burrow just got hurt again. Offensive line. Not only is it an open book test, they're giving you the answers to a Super Bowl. I say this all the time. Gone are the days where you can win with a subpar quarterback. The league is just the league is just too good. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. There's too many great quarterbacks out there for you to just win with nothing. The Cincinnati Bengals have a top 5 quarterback talent-wise in the league, and they continuously miss the mark on protecting him. And now, and this is no offense to Jake Browning, no offense to him, but he's not Joe Burrow. I know he has Jamar Chase. I know he has T. Higgins. This is not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, as great as he was, would have won MVP last year if his team made the playoffs. Joe Burrow couldn't even make the playoffs as great as he was last year with this squad. The season's over yet again for the Cincinnati Bengals because they, yet again, don't understand how to protect their quarterback. Even though it is an open book test, because we've had people like Andrew Luck. We've had people like Megatron. We've had people like Barry Sanders retire early. All different positions, too, retire early. Because they just couldn't take the punishment because the team was not doing what they could to protect them. And we're watching another case. I'm not saying Joe Burrow is going to retire early. I don't hope that for anyone. I don't hope that for him. I would love to see Joe Burrow play a long career or have a long career. But one thing I do know is I think Joe Burrow is the only player in NFL history to win Comeback Player of the Year twice. And he could be the first player in NFL history to win it 3 times now because this is yet another injury where the team did not do enough to protect him. Forget the game. Yeah, okay, cool. Y'all beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Woo! Your franchise quarterback is yet again hurt on y'all watch because y'all didn't do enough to protect him. I know people are saying, well, isn't Joe Burrow doesn't he have some type of blame? Doesn't he have to do the best that he can to protect himself? Yeah. But at what point does the team have to be like, do you have to be like, well, what is the team doing? If no offense to the offensive line, but it's garbage. When you have people, like when I'm guarding, people like myself guarding Joe Burrow, that's not going to work. And now this is yet another year where not only the season is essentially in jeopardy, you have 3 months, at least 3 months, that he's going to be gone. That's what? September, October, November, December. That's December. Mind you, the Super Bowl was in what, February? At that point, I know Jake Browning can maybe keep them afloat, but I don't know. Not in the AFC North. Not with the schedule that the Cincinnati Bengals have. I pray for speedy recovery, but this is yet another year where the Cincinnati Bengals season is over early because they can't protect their franchise quarterback. As unfortunate as it is. Speaking of unfortunate, we have seen, in my opinion, the end of the Tush Push. We have seen the unstoppable play that is the Tush Push. We've seen, I think this is the game against the Chiefs. The Eagles won 20-17. That game is the last that we're going to see. I'm not going to say the last because it probably the rest of the season, but I think that's the game that's going to get that play banned. Not because it's not a good play, but because of the fact that there's so many things illegally happening in that play. From offensive linemen being off sides, to the ball being snapped late, to you physically pushing a player, giving you all the advantage. We have seen, I'll say it like this. This game on Sunday was the last that we will see of the Tush Push, in a sense of it's probably going to be here for the rest of the year. I think that game essentially destroyed his future. Because, and it goes back to officiating, because that was an egregious use of the Tush Push. Like, I think at this point they've shown many videos, they've shown multiple angles. Damn, every single time they did it, almost every single offensive lineman was offsides. And they false start because they all move before the ball is even hiked. But because everyone's bunched up there, you can't really see it from a officiating standpoint. Forget the fact that it really gives you an unfair advantage. I want to know the success rate in fact, forget the success rate. I want to know how many times a Tush Push has been stopped. That right there is the stat in and of itself. I haven't seen it yet, but I can bet you that the Tush Push has been stopped less than 5 times. I can promise you that. The amount of times that the Eagles have done the Tush Push, I can bet you that it has not failed. It has not failed more than 5 times. If that doesn't scream unfair advantage, then I don't know what does. Now, I'm not one, I was always under the impression, well, if you don't want to do it, don't let them get 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. Or 4th and 1, but still. That is damn near an unstoppable play to officiate, to defend against, to stop, which is why I think this game is why we will not see the Tush Push past this year. Now let's get to the game as a whole, because there's a couple of takeaways that I got from this game. Let me start with the Philadelphia Eagles, since we're already here with the Tush Push. The reason why I understood what Cam Newton was talking about, but I did not agree, is because, and for people that don't remember what Cam Newton was talking about, Cam Newton said that, or he didn't believe that Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback because he didn't have to do much for the success of the Philadelphia Eagles, which I completely understood. I didn't agree. I do think that, I mean, once you win a Super Bowl, been to 2 Super Bowls, you have a Super Bowl MVP, I think that's a top 10 quarterback. But I understand where Cam Newton was coming from. The argument that Cam Newton has was shown in this game, was front and center in this game. Jalen Hurts, 15 for 22, threw for 101 yards. That's not that good in the NFL, you know. One thing I will give Jalen Hurts, though, is anytime he needs to make the play, he makes the play. Like, he's gotten to a point of his career where they have done a good job, the organization, and he has done a good job not putting his team in harm's way. Even if that means only throwing 22 times. He doesn't really do – he's only sacked twice for 7 yards. He doesn't put the team in harm's way as much as, you know, some quarterbacks would. So the fact that you have 101 passing yards, you didn't do much to – you had a QBR of 42.6, a passer rating of 80 or 78. That's not great. That's not really good. But he didn't do anything to put the team in a bad situation, and that's the best that you can ask for when you have a team as stacked, as good as the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley, 22 rushes for 88 yards. He did have a touchdown, but the Kansas City Chiefs, that is a really good defense, did a good job in containing the Philadelphia Eagles. More specifically, containing Saquon Barkley. But this is yet another game where A.J. Brown was almost an afterthought. This is yet another game where arguably a top 5 receiver was an afterthought. It happened game 1 when he only had 1 target. And game 2, while he was the most targeted receiver on the field, he had 8 targets, 5 receptions, 27 yards. He was the most targeted with 8, but only had 27 yards. They weren't deep passes. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. I don't think that A.J. Brown is going to be an Eagle in the foreseeable future. Maybe we can see with the trade deadline, but the Eagles have shown that they don't need a top 5 expensive, because he is expensive wide receiver to win, because they don't even use him like that. Now, I'm not saying expensive top. I'm not saying that in a bad way. What I'm saying is, I think the Eagles are going to either trade him or he's going to go, either at the trade deadline or at the end of the year. I would be shocked. I could be wrong, obviously, but I would be shocked if we start the next season with A.J. Brown as an Eagle. And that's no offense to the Eagles. That's no offense to A.J. Brown. It's just the Eagles have a formula. The Eagles have a way of winning. That way isn't necessarily conducive to the high usage rate of a wide receiver. In fact, it is a run, and we talked about this going into the season. It's a run-first team. It's a run-first and second team because that's where their success is. That doesn't, I'm going to talk about them a little later, but that's how the Ravens have been for the longest. That's why, even in their prime, a lot of wide receivers didn't want to go to Baltimore because Baltimore's philosophy was always smash mouth, run the football. And on top of that, as a top tier wide receiver, your numbers are going to take a huge dip because that's just not the game plan. Well, as you're seeing now with Lamar Jackson developing as more of a passer, with someone like Zay Flowers, someone like Rashad Bateman, you're seeing a resurgence in DeAndre Hopkins. That has changed, but for the longest, a lot of top-tier wide receivers would not go to Baltimore because they knew they weren't going to get the numbers. That's kind of how the Philadelphia Eagles are now. I think in total, for 2 games, A.J. Brown doesn't even have 40 yards. So, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It obviously hasn't hindered the success because, again, they're 2-0 right now. They won a Super Bowl last year, but we're seeing A.J. Brown's not as important to this offense as you would think someone of his caliber could be, which is why I think the relationship between A.J. Brown and the Eagles might not be for much longer. Could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, obviously I'll come here and say it, but, Speaking of relationships, let's go over to the Kansas City Chiefs for a second. I don't think you can look when you're searching for answers as to why the Kansas City Chiefs are 0-2, why Patrick Mahomes, as great as he is 0-2 for the first time since his high school years. I don't think you can look much further than Travis Kelce. Is Travis Kelce a future Hall of Famer? Yes. Is Travis Kelce arguably one of the greatest tight ends of all time? Yes. Is Travis Kelce still a top-tier tight end? No. The decline started last year, honestly. Actually, bump that. It started 2 years ago. It's just winning blankets a lot of stuff. They won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and that's why. And Travis Kelce had a really good game against both in the Super Bowl and against the Ravens in the AFC Championship 2 years ago. But the Travis Kelce decline started then. On top of that, last year, even though the Kansas City Chiefs were damn near undefeated going into the playoffs, I think they only lost 1 game. The offense was horrible. They were winning close games off of miracles. I mean, I know that you guys can remember what the Broncos had a blocked kick, the Raiders had a missed field goal to win, and they were up big. Like, they were winning in spectacular ways, but overall, it didn't look good at all. They were honestly winning off the greatness of their defense and the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. But even that, when you don't have top-tier talent around you, it hinders how great you can be. But again, winning blankets a lot of stuff because, again, I think they were like 15-1, 16-1 going into the playoffs. But Travis Kelce has been declining for like 2 years now. And I don't think there is more of a singular reason why the Chiefs are 0-2 than Travis Kelce's play. Because if you look at week 1, you run into the then top receiver because Rashee Rice is out. You run into the then top wide receiver on a crossing route, which you have admitted to is not supposed to happen, has never happened in your career. You run into him, he he dislocates his shoulder. He's out. And you drop, I think he dropped, I know 2 huge ones, but he dropped countless passes. He stopped running on a couple of them. And his effort wasn't there. And there's video. If you want to go watch, there's video of him that he doesn't run. There were times when Patrick Mahomes was scrambling, he just stood there and watched. And then in this game, you have the catch that more than likely, the way that the defense was there, you probably would have scored. The momentum in Arrowhead, might I add, would have been all on the Kansas City Chiefs. The defense was playing really good. And you not only fumbled the ball. Oh, I'm sorry. You not only dropped the ball, but it hits your hands, goes up, goes into I think it's Kenyon Mitchell, goes into the Eagles defender. And they take it back like 50 yards. No, it was Andrew Makuba. And on top of that, you're yelling like you're tired of this. You're yelling on the sideline, but you're not doing anything to help, bro. My issue is the Chiefs already, for yet another year, have an offensive line problem. I thought that was going to be better with homie that they drafted, but they still have an offensive line problem. And even with Xavier Worthy coming back, even with Rashee Rice coming back, which is another thing, they had the free 4, which is Rashee Rice, not realizing, or I guess forgetting the fact that he's suspended because he was driving like 120 miles an hour, racing somebody with regular pedestrians on the road. Like, come on, bro. And then flee the scene. But I think you can officially say that the Chiefs dynasty, the Chiefs reign on the AFC, the Chiefs aura, I guess you can say, is dead. That doesn't mean Patrick Mahomes isn't great. I still think Patrick Mahomes is the main reason why they had 17 points and the defense. But Patrick Mahomes was the leading rusher at 66 yards. That's not going to get it done. But on top of that offensive line, if you want to look at a singular person that is most to blame for this 0-2 start, look at that future Hall of Fame tight end, because he's been horrible. And this is the third matchup in a row where the Eagles have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs. So, on top of that, bro, when you look at what the Bills did last year, even though they did lose to the Chiefs, but even when you look at what the Bills and Josh Allen did last year, and this year, the first 2 games, even when you look at what the Ravens did last year, even though they lost to the Bills, in the first 2 games, they have 82 combined points, the Ravens, for the first 2 games. There's no way that you can look at that and think to yourselves, oh, well, still got Kansas City. No. Just put a record aside. There's no way that you can look at what the Chiefs have been doing and the Ravens have done these first 2 games. Just put the records aside. What team you think is better? There's no way that you can look at what the Chiefs are doing and what the Bills are doing and think to yourselves, record aside, yeah, the Chiefs don't. No. It's the fact that we're witnessing, we know what greatness looks like, so that's what we're used to with the Chiefs. And you still have Patrick Mahomes, who is still great, but at some point, your team has to match your greatness, and for the longest it has for Patrick Mahomes. Now, no. You also had a tight end that was playing at a Hall of Fame level. You do not anymore. So congratulations to the Eagles for beating the Kansas City Chiefs 20-17. Yo, there's this guy on TikTok. We're going to move forward. There's this guy on TikTok that I think after, I don't know if it's edited, I don't know if he doesn't do it, but his thing is after every Bears game, he runs the amount of which they lose. So they lose by 7 points. He runs a mile for every point that they lose by. So if they lose by 7 points, then he runs 7 miles. If they lose by 14 points, he runs 14 miles. Well, the Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears 52-21. For people that's not good at math, that is a 31-point loss. And I went to go see if he ran that 31 miles, and to his credit, he said he did. And the video looked like he did. Now, everything, people are asking me because I said that the Lions didn't look good. The Lions aren't going to, I thought that the season wasn't going to look great. People are asking me, am I ready to recant my statement? And no. Now, the Lions have a big game this week against the Ravens. If they beat the Ravens or win in the same fashion that they beat the Bears, then I may have something else to say. But you're the Lions. You heard all the talk about how you're not going to be the same without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. You're playing against Ben Johnson, and you're also playing against a defense that got torched by J.J. McCarthy in the fourth quarter last game. Every motivation was for the Lions to dominate, and that's what they did. The Lions scored double digits every single quarter. The Lions beat the absolute hell out of the Bears, bro. Losing by 31 points in the NFL is insane. Scratch that. Allowing 52 points in the NFL is insane. I am not solely if you want to put like a blame pie, I'm going to say 90% of this blame pie for the Bears, this game was the defense. Yo, I thought the defense, if there was one thing that you can lean on for the Bears this year, at least early this year, I thought it was going to be their defense. Boy, was I wrong. Their defense has been getting torched. Like, what the... It is. Yo, I understand how good when you talk about, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. I understand how good that this team can be, Laporta, but you giving up 52 points and your calling card is supposed to be defense, even with Ben Johnson, who's an offensive-minded coach. They've been getting torched. So I would say 90% of the loss goes to, I would say 80% of the loss goes to the defense. 20% has to go to Caleb Williams, bro. This is yet another game where the scripted plays, the first 10 plays, he looked incredible. He looked like a number 1 overall pick. But then you have after that, and you have the plays where you have to make things happen. He fell back into his, bro. We all seen the play. It was like third in 2023, 29 or something. And the offensive line breaks down, and instead of just throwing it away, he runs back another like 10 yards, then cuts right to try to go back, realize he's about to get sacked, just tosses the ball up, boom, interception. I think what the mindset is he was 9 times out of 10 the best athlete on the field in college, both at Oklahoma and USC. He was 9 times out of 10 the best player for both on both sides, the best athlete on the field. And because of that, he had some spectacular plays, and I'm not taking that away from him. But this is the NFL. You're not the best athlete. 9 times out of 10, the best athlete on the field when Caleb Williams on the field is on the defensive side of the ball. And, bro, the man was sacked 4 times for 29 yards and had an egregious interception. I think the worst part about this, and I know it's early, but I think the worst part about this is from last year to now, I'm not seeing growth. I'm not seeing, and that's kind of, I'm not saying Ben Johnson's job should be in jeopardy. I don't believe that right now. But that's the most disappointing thing, especially when you pair him with what a lot of people, including myself, thought was the perfect pairing at the quarterback coach pair, Ben Johnson and him. I thought that he would be better. And he has not been in the slightest. So I don't know, bro. But 80% defense, 20% Caleb. That was an egregious play, and we've all seen it. So, congrats to the Lions for beating the Bears 52-21. I want to remind you guys that the Patriots looked awful week 1. The Patriots look like they could arguably be the worst team. I'm not going to say in the NFL, but I'm going to say in the division. Week 1 against the Raiders. They had Geno Smith looking like prime Michael Vick in week 1. Now, there was only one team that looked worse in the division, and that was the Miami Dolphins. I think that is the craziest thing about what we saw this Sunday. Not the fact that the Patriots beat the Dolphins 33-27. No. I think I thought that the Dolphins were going to win because there was more motivation for them. But I was wrong. I was wrong. On top of that, bro, Drake May, he looked good at spurts. He had a passer rating of 137. I never understand that. Somebody in the comments, I might just Google it. But his QBR was 75.5 or 77.5. But his passer rating was 137.3. How is there such a huge discrepancy? I don't know. But the thing that was so alarming to me was the motivation was there. The motivation for the Dolphins was there. You score 8 points and get just drubbed by the Colts and Daniel Jones week 1. You're going up against a divisional opponent at home. You would think that on top of that, you're hearing all the talk about how Tua's not the guy, how Tyreek Hill is going to be traded or should be traded, how Mike McDaniel isn't the right. Like, you're hearing all these talks, so that you'd think this would be the week to shut him up. And you lose. Yeah. You let Antonio Gibson. I think they had back-to-back kickoff returns. One from the Dolphins and another one from Antonio Gibson, if I'm not mistaken. Devon Achane had 11 carries for 30 yards. Tyreek Hill, 6 receptions for. How do you overthrow? Yo, that's another thing. Did you hear the post, like the press conference for after the game? Both Mike McDaniel and Tua, when Tua's saying, I told Reek, man, don't think I can pass it to you 80 yards. So you're telling them that you can't throw the ball deep. Even though Tyreek Hill sat up here with a mic in his face and said that Tua is a more gifted passer than Patrick Mahomes. Tua just said that he can't throw the ball more than 80 yards. Which now puts into perspective, because I'm thinking to myself, how the hell are you overthrowing Tyreek Hill, the fastest, most wide open man on the field? How are you overthrowing him? What? And then Mike McDaniel, the way to win. I told you guys. I said that there's going to be a point where that quirkiness and that it gets old. Wasn't wrong, now was I? Bro, if I'm not mistaken, the Dolphins play the Bills on Thursday. Tomorrow. So you better be 0-3. I could be wrong, but I'm throwing in my early prediction that the Bills are going to dog walk the Dolphins. 0-3. I don't know how many teams have started 0-3 and made the playoffs, but I know there's been a lot that hasn't. And I think Colin Cowherd said something that is true and important. He was like, usually teams like to reevaluate, and if you're going to fire a coach mid-season, they usually do it before, like the week or two before the bye week, which gives you time to, whatever interim coach or new coach you're bringing in, it gives them time to kind of integrate themselves with the team. The Dolphins' bye week, I believe, is week 10. I don't know if Mike McDaniel is going to survive to week 10. Especially after this. But we'll see. Congratulations to the Patriots for beating the Dolphins 33-27. Oh, boy. You want to talk about the most exciting game, and I think, not exciting, the most exhilarating game, especially at the end, was the Dallas Cowboys beating the Giants 40-37. Look, forget the interception in overtime. I told y'all that I think Russell Wilson threw for 450 yards. he was throwing moon balls left and right, bro. I was just like, bro, it just felt like, and it felt like it was always to Malik Neighbors, bro. Malik Neighbors, 9 catches for 167 yards. Wendell Robinson, 8 catches for 142. Bro, every time he threw the ball, I was like, God. Because it was just like, ugh. And then he just launched it. And I'm like, oh, I guess somebody down there. And lo and behold, it's Malik Neighbors or Wendell Robinson. But I do want to talk about, what was that offensive lineman's name, bro? The backup lineman, oh my gosh. He had like 4 or 5 straight penalties just on him. And shout out to what's his name? Brandon Aubrey. The man kicked a 64-yarder to essentially win the game in overtime. Again, it was looking like it's gonna be the Giants. And if it was the Giants, we'll be having a much different conversation about the Cowboys today. But especially that defense. But couldn't get it done couldn't get it done in the regular, or couldn't get it done in regulation. And Russell Wilson threw a back-breaking, as great as he was, bro, he threw a back-breaking interception. I was like, there it goes. Then the defense just fell apart. So, and don't get me wrong, the defensive front, and that's going to be the issue for the Giants this entire season. The defensive front is good. It's just that back end. I've been telling people, Trayvon Diggs he's a all or nothing type player. Either he's getting an interception or he's getting burnt. And we saw that, same as DeRon Bland. We saw it. So, but congratulations to the Dallas Cowboys for beating the Giants 40-37. Definitely was an exhilarating end to a game. So, okay. The Falcons beat the Minnesota Vikings 22-6. I know we're trying to preach patience. I know that, especially with a younger quarterback, that's what you want to do. And this was probably the worst Sunday night football game I've seen in a while. It was just field goal after field goal after field goal for both teams until like the fourth quarter, the end of the fourth quarter, where the Falcons got a touchdown. But like Bijan Robinson ran for 143 yards and didn't even score a touchdown. That was crazy. That man got to like the 1 yard line. They took him out and put in Tyler Aguilar. Mind you, Bijan Robinson had 143 rushing yards, and they took him out. Okay. But in 8 quarters, J.J. McCarthy has looked good in one of them. Just one. Bro, he had a QBR of 6 this game. 6.1 if you want to be exact. And he had a pass rating of 37.5. Michael Penix wasn't much better. He had a QBR of 27. The defense played his part. The offense, bro, again. And now it looks like J.J. McCarthy's not going to play next game because he got hurt. So maybe you can get maybe you can trade for Kirk Cousins. He used to be there. But in 8 quarters, 2 games, J.J. McCarthy has looked terrible. He's looked overwhelmed. That's the worst part. He's looked overwhelmed. Like the game is just the game just too fast for him. He only had 1 quarter where he looked great, and that was the 4th quarter of the Bears game. He's looked horrible for 7 quarters. Just saying. But congratulations to the Falcons for beating the Minnesota Vikings 22-6. Look, as much as we saw the Seahawks beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-17. As much as we want to crap on the offense, as much as we want to crap on Aaron Rodgers because it didn't look as explosive as it did week one, obviously against the Jets, I think it's time to really have a conversation. I tried to push it back. I said that first game was an anomaly. This is yet another game where the defense has given up 30-plus points. The Steelers' defense that is known for its historic levels of defensive play gave up 31 points. Now, don't get me wrong. I am higher on the Seahawks than most this year. But did you see what the Seahawks offense looked like last week against a good against the 49ers compared to what they look like again? Look, now I will say, what is homie's name? I don't want to single you out, but I have to. What is that dude's name? Whatever homie's name is, is it Caleb? Yes, it is. Caleb Johnson. I get he's a rookie, I believe. But you have to know the rules of the game. You have to know that if the ball rolls into the end zone, you still have to recover it. If not, if the other team recovers it, it is a touchdown. That turned the entire tide of the game. That was one of the biggest reasons why they lost the game. The Steelers still had some type of momentum. That just wiped it out completely. And I just feel like the team just couldn't get right after that. But the defense is horrible. The defense has been horrible for 2 weeks now. You gave up 30-plus to the Jets, and you gave up 30-plus to the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks are a better team than the Jets, in my opinion. But if there was one thing that we had questions, or that we were going to have questions about this season, it wasn't it definitely wasn't the defense for the Steelers. And on top of that, the offense was on the field for so long because the defense just couldn't, it was a bad game all around. Don't get me wrong. But that defense is an issue. That's all I'll say about that. Because this is 2 weeks now where they've gotten torched. And a lot of people were saying when you play a better defense, the Steelers' offense isn't going to look great. They weren't lying. 18 for 33 for Aaron Rodgers, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown. It's not good. But congratulations to the Seahawks for beating the Steelers 31-17. Yo, Baker Mayfield continues to show why, Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback in this league. I don't think there should be any questions about that at this point. The Bucs beat the Houston Texans 20-19. Baker Mayfield, the Houston Texans scored with like a minute 30 left on the clock, and Baker Mayfield led the team all the way down the field for I think a Bucky Irving score. Oh no, a Rashad White score. CJ Stroud, he missed some wide open receivers and he missed some wide open throws, but again, the offensive line was terrible. And I don't know many people that can, but C.J. Stroud is not at that point of his career where he can overcome. No, to be honest with you, forget that. It is almost impossible to overcome a bad offensive line because we're seeing what happened with Joe Burrow. The Houston Texans, as great as their defense can be, as great as their offense and the pieces that they have, Nick Chubb, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, as great as they can be, if they don't have an offensive line, which they do not, they're always playing with one hand behind their back. And you're playing against a really good team in Tampa. And if it wasn't for some situations, you would have beat them. But Baker Mayfield shows why he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. Boy, he led them down with the Now, there were also plays where Baker Mayfield showed you why. Oh, yeah, he's closer to 10 than 1. But Baker Mayfield's good, bro. I know people were killing me. Baker Mayfield has sort of like a hive of fans. Just like, hey, remember when you were killing him when he went to the Carolina Panthers, and then when he got cut and went to the Rams, remember you were killing him? Yeah. I know the situation might not have been ideal, but he didn't look good. He's looked good. He looked good the year before his last year in Cleveland. Led the Browns to the playoffs. He looked good then, and he's looked really good in a Buccaneers jersey. So, shout out to Baker Mayfield. Shout out to the Buccaneers for beating the Houston Texans 20-19. Boy, talk about game-to-game basis. The Chargers beat the Vegas Raiders 20-9. Bro, Geno Smith, who looked like prime Michael Vick just a week ago, didn't score a touchdown, had 3 interceptions. He was horrible. Now, after what I've seen these first 2 weeks, I think right now the team to beat in the AFC West is the Chargers. What Jim Harbaugh got cooking up, now I don't know, as I'm recording this, I don't know what the severity of the injury is, but Khalil Mack went out. That could be huge. They're already missing Rashad Slater on the offensive line for the season. Khalil Mack looked like he could have broke his arm or tore something with his bicep. I don't know. I'm not hoping for that, but as the time of this recording, I don't know the seriousness of the injury. But what I do know is if he is out for a prolonged period of time, that is huge for this team. Even though Derwin James is really good, the team is good. It's just that's Khalil Mack. But they look good, man. I would like to see them run the ball more. I mean, Justin Herbert, with a team with Najee Harris, Justin Herbert should not be our leading rusher. That's all I'm saying. But this team looks really good. Justin Herbert went 19 for 27, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns. He only had 2 sacks. Yeah. The Raiders looked all of what I thought the Raiders would look like this year in this game. But the Chargers look really good. So shout out to the Chargers for beating the Raiders 20-9. Boy, you talking about an all-time just, The Colts beat the Buccaneers 29-28. Yo, this is yet another game, and I'm starting to get on that. I'm slowly approaching, or actually, I'm quickly approaching that I was wrong status with Daniel Jones and the Colts. But Daniel Jones, this is yet another game where he was balling 23 for 34, 316 yards, 1 touchdown. Like, he was hooping. He outplayed Bo Nix, just like he outplayed Tua the first game. Bo Nix, 22 for 30, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That interception was horrendous. That was such a bad interception for Bo Nix. And they lost this game for special teams, bro. They had the game. Homie had to kick like a 64-yarder, missed horribly, but the Broncos were flagged for jumping on the dude's back for leverage. So they got a re-kick and it was like 50-something yards, and he won. I am a little concerned, though, because this defense this is yet another defense that we thought coming into the season was going to be great. The Broncos defense has been getting torched these first two games, man. So I don't know. But, yeah, I'm slowly getting to that. I apologize. I was wrong territory with the Colts and Daniel Jones, but they did beat the Broncos 29-28. Go those special teams. Yo, talk about tale of two games. The Bills beat the Jets 30-10. Maybe the Bills are just on a entirely different level than the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Jets scored like 30-something points. I think it was like 32 points against the Steelers and only scored 10 against the Bills. Now I know it's week to week, and Justin Fields did get hurt. I think it was like concussion or something. So he was out majority of the game, but Josh Allen reminded him who the hell he was. And this is actually not first time. This is one of those very rare times where Josh Allen didn't have to do much. He only passed for 148 yards when James Cook ran for 132 yards for 2 touchdowns. He was cooking. Yeah, Josh Allen didn't throw a touchdown? Nope. This was one of those games where Josh Allen didn't have to do much, which is scary because we know how important he is for the Bills if you get more of a balance with the offense and balance on the defense. Because if I'm not mistaken, Keon Coleman only had 3 catches for 26 yards. In fact, Joshua Palmer was the leading yards getter for the receiving with 47. So, yeah, that's Josh Allen ran for 59 yards. Damn. But yeah, the Jets, man. This is yet another. Another one. This is yet another. Their defense just got torched, bro. Their defense got torched. You let Aaron Rodgers and essentially James Cook come in and just embarrass y'all. So we'll see, man. We will see. But congratulations to the Bills for beating the Jets 30-10. Sort of like J.J. McCarthy. Man, Bryce Young, bro. The Arizona Cardinals beat the Carolina Panthers 27-22. Bryce Young looked horrible until like the third quarter. So out of 8 quarters, Bryce Young looked good in 2 of them. And J.J. McCarthy looked good in only 1. The second half, he was kind of hooping. I'm not going to lie to you. But that first half and the first game, Bryce Young has looked horrible. But, again, that second half, he was slicing and dicing. He finished with 328 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was looking good that second half. But that first half, he outplayed – well, no, he didn't. He had better – passing yards than Kyler Murray. Actually, he did outplay Kyler Murray. It's just, I don't know, bro. Like, every time I get to the point where it's just like, Bryce Young just ain't it. He does something like this. I don't know. This might be an anomaly because, again, out of 8 quarters this year, he's only looked good in 2. But congratulations to Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals, bro, they're 2-0. Who would have thought that? But congratulations to the Cardinals for beating the Panthers 27-22. Yo, I think it's official. The Saints are the worst team in football. Yo, you let Mac Jones go in and throw for 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, Spencer Rattler did have 207 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but you lost to the 49ers 26-21. If there was a game, look, Christian McCaffrey only had 55 rushing yards. He did have 52 passing yards though. For receiving yards. If there was a game to win, this was it. You're going up against a backup quarterback. They don't have their top wide receiver. Like, Alvin Kamara, 21 rushes for 99 yards. Jeez. Chris Olave, 6 receptions for your top 54 yards. Damn, Alvin Kamara fumbled and lost one. Damn. Yeah, but the Saints are the worst team in football, bro. Like, if you can't win to a Mac Jones-led team when their top receiver, Juwan Jennings, had 89 yards and Ricky Parasol had 56, where Mac Jones fumbled twice and lost one, like, come on, bro. Yeah. Saints are the worst team in football. I'm sorry. But congratulations to the 49ers for beating the Saints 26-21. The Rams have a really good pass rush, bro. Like, really good pass rush. The Rams beat the Tennessee Titans 33-19. This Titans team is really devoid of talent, bro. No offense to Calvin Ridley, but he had 2 really bad drops again, and he finished as the top receiver with 57 yards. Tony Pollard, 20 carries for 92 yards. And Cam Ward, who did have his first touchdown, which was a crazy touchdown pass. He threw across his body. It was incredible, but he only threw for 100. This Tennessee Titans team sucks, bro. At least offensively. Now, yes, you're going up against a far superior team in the Rams. Matthew Stafford, 298, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like, he was good. Puka Nacua had a huge run to 45 yards touchdown. Devontae Adams, 106 yards touchdown. Yeah, it's incredible, but and the pass rush is good. But yeah, the Tennessee Titans, man, thanks. You know, I don't know. I mean, I see the potential in Cam Ward. I see it. I see why you're a number 1 overall pick, but the team around you just sucks, bro. The coach is probably going to be gone by week. I don't know, man. Calvin really got to stop dropping ball. Like, it's, yeah. And the Ravens beat the Browns 41-17. The Browns held their own for a little bit. Like, I think it was like 10-3 for the longest. And then the dam broke. Lamar Jackson was incredible like usual. 19 for 29, 225 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Joe Flacco looked old as hell, like he is. I know it was like the 30th anniversary of the Ravens' existence, which is crazy that they did it on the week of the Browns, seeing as though they took the Browns from them to make them the Ravens. But I will say, however, the Browns did a really good job containing Derrick Henry. Like, they did an exceptional job. But when you have a touchdown after a fumble from Roquan Smith, You're the Ravens, bro. The Ravens, if they're able to finish games, they have looked like the best team in football. But obviously, we have what we have, and we have what we saw week 1. Right now, if I was ranking them, it'll probably be the Eagles, the Bills, the Packers, and maybe the Ravens. Like those, the Ravens look monstrous. Now I know I am interested to see, and the rhetoric can definitely change after this week. Actually, these next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because they got to play the Lions. I think they play the Chiefs, and then they play the Texans. I'm definitely. I really want to see what they look like against the Lions. I think that's Sunday Night Football too, so we'll see. But congratulations to the Ravens for just beating. Yo, it's funny too. Yo, look, I'm not one. We all know that actions have consequences. Like, we know this. And we all know that decisions also come with consequences as well, whether good or bad. I'm not saying that it was a bad decision, but Myles Garrett can't be the guy to come out and say, that was horrible. It was just embarrassing. We got to find a way to be better. Bruh, there's no way to be better. You took the money, and I'm not saying don't take the money, but when you took the money, you knew. There's a reason why you requested a trade in the first place, because this was the void of town. You weren't going anywhere. This is the consequence of the decision of staying on a team that you knew wasn't good enough. They were just paying you enough, which I respect. I'm not saying that's bad, but is it really embarrassing? Because you knew those. Bro, Joe Flacco's 40-something, right? Your backup, you can't even get the backup quarterback situation right. So that's all I'm saying. But congratulations again to the Ravens for beating the Browns. They're 41-17. The Ravens are just on a different level than the Browns right now. Just much higher level. That's all I'm saying. And there you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, a link in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate all of you guys. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. It definitely means a lot. Also, for my DSPs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, please follow, please subscribe, please comment, please rate. I'm trying to grow the podcast unilaterally, and I cannot do it without you guys' help. So for all my DSP listeners, again, please share, follow, subscribe, comment, rate. It means a lot. For my socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I post pretty much daily there. If you want to get reels, if you want to get stories, if you want to get more content, please follow the socials. I don't mind going back and forth. Just leave it in the comments. If you keep it respectful, I'll say I don't mind going back and forth. It just means you're listening to me and you're passionate about whatever we're talking about. Again, you keep it respectful. I don't mind going back and forth and debating with you. I appreciate it. Until next time, much love.